Hi everyone! In this video I'll be doing an in-depth review of the Holo-Taco Pastel Rainbow Collection. We'll be taking a look at swatches of all 7 shades in this collection, colour comparisons to other polishes in the Holo-Taco range, and finally I'll show you how these polishes perform in a variety of nail art techniques, so do stick around until the end of the video if you're interested in doing nail art with this collection. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's get started. The Pastel Rainbow Collection consists of 7 shades in a linear holographic formula, and is essentially a pastel version of the Rainbow Collection that Holo-Taco released last year. The first shade I'm swatching is Coral Chaser. This is the quote-unquote red shade of the rainbow in this collection, and it's a very warm, pink-leaning coral shade. Now, my first impressions with all of the shades in this collection is that they apply really easily. They're self-leveling, and I find I can do multiple brush strokes without any dragging, which is fantastic. The first coat is quite sheer, but for all 7 shades I got full coverage in 2 coats. I will say that under my testing, I think I get a slightly better colour payoff with a 3rd coat, but 2 coats is definitely sufficient for full coverage. Here I'm applying a glossy top coat. It's always a good idea to use a good quality top coat with holographic polishes. Not only does it protect your manicure, but it also intensifies that holographic rainbow flare. Now here's Coral Chaser next to the red shade from last year's Rainbow Collection, Red Licorice. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Coral Chaser and Red Licorice on my middle and ring fingers respectively, alongside some of the other red-leaning shades from Holo-Taco's range. On my index finger I'm wearing Solar Unicorn Skin over 1 coat black, and on my pinky I'm wearing Party Punch. Next up is the orange shade in this collection, and that's called Peach Tea. This is a beautiful pale peachy orange colour that I think is incredibly flattering on just about any skin tone. You may have already noticed that the linear holographic flare on these polishes is very strong. And in my testing, I noticed that the linear rainbow shine can be seen even under indirect light. The holographic flare is a lot stronger in this collection than in last year's Rainbow Collection, but I think this is expected due to the underlying shades in this year's collection being lighter. Holographic pigments always look more intense in a light-coloured base polish. Now here's Peach Tea next to the orange shade from last year's Rainbow Collection, Orange Drink. And now on my hand I'm showing you Peach Tea and Orange Drink on my middle and ring fingers, alongside some of the other Holo-Taco orange leaning shades. On my thumb I'm wearing Zyla the Cat, on my index finger I'm wearing Cheap Champagne, and on my pinky I'm wearing Play Rosé. Next up is the yellow shade in this collection, Lemon Spritzer. This is a cool toned pale yellow shade, and it has the slightest hint of a green undertone. Another major difference I noticed between this collection and last year's Rainbow Collection is the ease of application. These polishes are noticeably thinner in consistency, and I have to say I prefer them this way. I found last year's Rainbow Collection to be a little bit thicker, which is possibly because they just have a lot more pigment in them, but it led to them being a bit more challenging to apply, sometimes drying a little too quickly or getting a little gummy, and I ended up having to thin them with nail polish thinner. This new collection is what I would consider a perfect consistency. They don't dry too quickly, so you have a good amount of time to paint them on the nail, but you also don't have to wait a long time between coats. Now here's Lemon Spritzer next to the yellow shade from last year's Rainbow Collection, Lemon Sucker. And now on my hand I'm showing you Lemon Spritzer and Lemon Sucker on my middle and ring fingers, alongside the other yellow shades from Holo-Taco's range. On my index finger I'm wearing Lunar Unicorn Skin over 1 coat black, and on my pinky I'm wearing Banana Hacks. Next up is the green shade in this collection. This one's called Mint Mojito. I think this one is my favourite of the collection. It's a pale green shade that leans a little towards turquoise, and it's an absolute stunner. As you may know, Holo-Taco was created by YouTuber Simply Nailogical, aka Christine Rotenberg, And on a recent episode of their podcast, Simply Podlogical, Christine and her partner Ben said that this pastel rainbow collection had been Holotaco's most successful launch yet. I can't say I'm surprised. These polishes are absolutely gorgeous, and I promise they look just as good in person as they do on screen. Now here's Mint Mojito next to the green shade from last year's rainbow collection, Green Taffy. And now on my hand I'm showing you Mint Mojito and Green Taffy on my middle and ring fingers, alongside the other Holotaco green shades. On my thumb I'm wearing Green Screen, on my index finger I'm wearing Mint Money, and on my pinky I'm wearing Chameleon Coat. Next up is the blue shade in this collection, Sparkling Water. This is a stunning, true blue shade, and it really looks like the perfect sparkling blue of a fresh lake. It's just incredibly pretty. Now, I haven't filmed a long wear test for this video, but just anecdotally, I'm finding these polishes wear really well. I've been able to wear them with a peel-off base coat and have them looking great on the nail for about a week, with just a little bit of tip wear and minimal chipping. I don't tend to wear nail polish for longer than a week at a time, so I haven't tested them beyond that, but I think that's a pretty good result. Now here's Sparkling Water next to the blue shade from last year's rainbow collection, Blue Freezy. And on my hand, I'm showing you Sparkling Water and Blue Freezy on my middle and ring fingers, alongside some of the other blue shades from Holotaco's range. On my thumb, I'm wearing Scientific, on my index finger, I'm wearing Cold Shoulder, and on my pinky, I'm wearing Frost Light. Next up is the purple shade in this collection, Lavender Syrup. This is a blue-leaning purple shade, but it's still distinct from Sparkling Water. I'll be showing a side-by-side comparison of all the shades later in the video. Here is Lavender Syrup next to the purple shade from last year's rainbow collection, Purple Slushy. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Lavender Syrup and Purple Slushy on my middle and ring fingers, alongside the other purple shades from Holotaco's range. On my index finger, I'm wearing Aurora Unicorn Skin over One Coat Black, and on my pinky, I'm wearing Purple with Envy. Finally, we have the pink shade of the collection, Pink Fizz. This is a cool toned pink shade that I think is really unique. It does almost look a little purple at times, but I do think that that is intensified by seeing the blue and purple parts of the holographic flare, which come across really strongly in this shade. And you'll see later in the video when you wear this shade matte and you only see the base color, it does look more pink than purple. Here is Pink Fizz next to its corresponding darker shade from last year's rainbow collection, Magenta Jelly. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Pink Fizz and Magenta Jelly on my middle and ring fingers, alongside some of the other pink leaning shades from Holotaco's range. On my thumb, I'm wearing Fake Date, on my index finger, I'm wearing Menchie the Cat, and on my pinky, I'm wearing Cat's Evasion. So here are all 7 shades side by side. You can see that these shades have been carefully selected to look incredible together in any combination. I also wanted to show you how they look with a matte top coat. This removes the holographic effect, and so you're left with just the underlying base color. I do think it's really interesting how much more pastel these shades look when they're matte, and that's because the holographic effect seems to intensify those colors. And now for some nail art. I tested these polishes with 3 techniques: sponge gradients, stamping, and water marbling. So let's see how they perform. To do a sponged gradient, I'm using a makeup sponge and trying out a sunset gradient with the warmer shades of the collection, and I'm taking care to overlap the colours on the sponge. I started off with one coat of lemon spritzer on the nail. It's always a good idea to start with one coat of the lightest colour in your gradient, and this helps the sponged polish adhere to the nail. You can see after one coat, it's still kind of hard to see the colours in the gradient. I found that doing 3 coats of the sponged gradient gave the best results, letting the polish dry in between coats. I'm showing the application of the 3rd coat here. Now I think this gradient looks great, and I don't think you lose any colour intensity as long as you build up 3 coats. However, I do think that the linear holographic flare gets reduced a little bit because sponging the polish on makes it a bit less smooth. A coat of glossy top coat does help that though. Next up, I wanted to see how these polishes could be used for nail stamping. Now, last year's Rainbow collection was amazing for nail stamping, and you can see this in my Christmas sweater video. However, because this year's Pastel Rainbow collection is a lot lighter in colour, I wasn't sure what to expect with stamping. I'm using this stamping plate from Moyu London that has a few different types of designs on it, because I wanted to see how these polishes would work with different thicknesses of lines. The first thing I noticed is that these polishes do seem to pick up well. Even the fine lines in the design have transferred onto the stamper. So first off, stamping these shades over one coat black, the result looks really cool with the holographic effect, but it is pretty hard to see the actual base shade of each colour. I can't really tell them apart. Next, I'm going to do exactly the same thing and stamp them over Not Milky White. And this time, you can definitely see each different shade, but it doesn't end up looking very holographic. I'm going to repeat this for the last 3 shades in the collection so you can see how all of them look. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with their performance for stamping. Obviously they aren't going to look very saturated in colour, but I could definitely see myself using them for some more subtle stamped designs. Finally, I'm going to show you how these polishes work in a water marble design. So I start by applying drops of the polish one by one into a cup of filtered room temperature water in a bullseye. You can see that these polishes do exactly what you need them to do for water marbling. The polish drops are floating and expanding on the water. One thing I did find in my testing is that it really does help if you build up the bullseye as much as you can. This makes the polish layer a bit thicker and hugely improves the look of the final result, since it'll look a little too sheer if the polish layer is very thin. So if you find that your bullseye stops expanding quickly like mine did, you can run a toothpick around the edge of the cup to remove the first 1 or 2 rings of polish, which tend to dry very quickly, and these prevent the bullseye expanding. So once I've got as many layers of polish into my bullseye as I can, I'm dragging a toothpick into the center just to create some basic loops. I'm then dunking my swatch stick into the part of the design I want and using a toothpick to clear away the excess polish from the surface of the water before pulling the swatch stick out. Now over black, this design looks super cool, kind of like an oil slick with that holographic rainbow. Next, I'm going to do exactly the same thing over white. And wow, I actually gasped out loud when I pulled this out of the water because it looks so gorgeous. So the verdict is in. These polishes look fantastic in water marble designs. So overall, I'm really impressed with this collection. I think it's probably my favorite Holo Taco collection so far. These polishes are not only stunning on their own, but they perform really well in nail art techniques. Now I'd like to know what you think. Do you have these polishes, or are you still thinking about getting them? Would you like to see a video showing more nail art designs using these polishes? Let me know in the comments. So that's it for today. If you liked this video and thought it was helpful, please leave a like, maybe check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you next time.